Richard Petty did not hold back, not even a little bit. And when a 7-time NASCAR Cup Series champion goes on his podcast and calls a driver out by name, the entire sport stops and listens. That is exactly what happened after Sunday's Cookout 400 at Martinsville Speedway. A race that started with high hopes for Bubba Wallace and ended with 12 cars in the wall, a championship in freefall, and one of the most talked about incidents of the entire 2026 NASCAR season. Before we break it all down, welcome to NASCAR Hub. Hit that like button and subscribe. We are pushing hard for 1,000 subscribers, and if you live and breathe NASCAR every single week, you are exactly where you need to be. Let's get into it. Now here is what makes this story so much bigger than just a wreck. Bubba Wallace entered Martinsville sitting third in the Cup Series championship. 4 finishes of 11th or better in his first 5 races. At one point, he was sitting second in the standings. Everything pointed toward 2026 being a potential breakthrough year, the kind of season that ends with a legitimate title run. But there is critical context here that most people are missing, and it explains everything. Wallace's teammate, Tyler Reddick, had been on an absolutely unprecedented tear to open this season. Reddick became the first driver in NASCAR history to win the first 3 Cup Series races of a season. Then he went on to win 4 of the first 6 races, a level of dominance that has simply never been seen before in NASCAR's modern era. That kind of performance from a teammate creates pressure, quiet pressure, the kind that builds slowly and does not go away. According to Kyle Petty, Richard's son and a respected NASCAR analyst, that pressure had been building inside Wallace for weeks, and it would eventually find a release valve at Martinsville. Now let's talk about Carson Hocevar. The 23-year-old driving the number 77 Spire Motorsports Chevrolet has earned a nickname, Hurricane Hocevar, for a reason. His aggressive style on track has made him a lightning rod for controversy throughout his young career. A lot of drivers, fans, and analysts are quick to blame him when things go sideways. But at Martinsville on lap 323, what Hocevar did was not controversial. It was simply hard short-track racing. On a restart, Hocevar drove 3 wide underneath Wallace heading into turn 1. Minor contact. Hocevar got past Wallace coming out of turn 2. That is the kind of bold, aggressive move that Martinsville rewards. It was legal. It was competitive. It was exactly the kind of racing this sport celebrates. Wallace did not see it that way. As the field headed into turn 3, Wallace pulled right up behind Hocevar's bumper and gave him a hard shove. Then he did it again. He kept pushing into the rear of the number 77 through turns 3 and 4. Not once, not twice, multiple times. On the exit of turn 4, Hocevar's car finally snapped around on the front stretch. The cars behind had nowhere to go. 12 cars collected. Daniel Suarez, Chris Boucher, Austin Dillon, Austin Hill, Zane Smith, John Hunter Nemechek, Eric Jones, Michael McDowell, Connor Zilish, and even Wallace's own 23XI Racing teammate Riley Erbson all swept up in it. An enormous portion of the field wiped out in a single moment. Hocevar's team repaired his car enough to keep him on the lead lap. He worked his way back through the field and crossed the finish line 17th, matching his best ever result at Martinsville. Remarkable recovery for a guy whose car had just been destroyed on the front stretch. Wallace was not so fortunate. His day was done on the spot. 36th place finish. His worst result of the 2026 season and his first DNF of the year. After being released from the infield care center, Wallace met Fox Sports reporter Jamie Little on pit road and addressed it directly. He said, "I misjudged. I didn't appreciate the 3 wide into 1. Fine, but I misjudged the center of the corner and didn't mean to turn him." His position was clear. He was frustrated by Hocevar's 3 wide move. That frustration influenced his decision to respond, but he says the wreck itself was a mistake. The problem, The replay tells a more complicated story. Wallace did not make one contact with Hocevar. He made multiple, and that sequence of events is exactly what made the NASCAR world push back so hard on the misjudgment explanation. Kevin Harvick, working the Fox Sports broadcast from the booth, called it out live as it was happening. He stated that Wallace drove straight through the number 77 car, and he suggested there was something deeper going on that day, that this was not a racing incident. This was an emotional one. But the voice that carried the most weight came on Monday. Richard Petty, the King, had been at Martinsville Speedway in person on Sunday. He saw the entire sequence with his own eyes. The following day, he addressed it on his podcast, The Petty Race Recap. His co-host Dale Earnhardt tried to soften the description of the incident. Earnhardt suggested that Wallace had simply kind of gotten into Hocevar. Petty was not having it. He said kind of got into him. He just drove on in there and knocked the door out of him. That is as direct as it gets in any sport. When a 7-time champion with over 1,000 career starts tells you that you knocked the door out of somebody, that carries an authority that no broadcast analyst or social media hot take can match. Richard Petty was not speculating. He was not offering a hot take. He watched it happen from inside the Speedway and told the world exactly what he saw. Kyle Petty went even further on the Inside the Race podcast. He brought a layer of psychological insight that nobody else in the conversation had introduced. He acknowledged that frustration is real and part of racing. He even admitted openly that he has both been wrecked and wrecked other drivers himself. But then he made the point that reframed the entire conversation. Kyle Petty argued that Wallace was dealing with what he called double frustration at Martinsville. The first source was straightforward. Wallace was already having a bad day on track before the incident with Hocevar. The second source had been simmering beneath the surface for weeks, watching his own teammate Tyler Reddick dominate the sport in a way that no driver in NASCAR history had ever done. Kyle Petty said, "You race your teammates. I don't give a rat's rear end what anybody says. You race your teammates. You want to be top of the heap, king of the hill in your own team. And I think there's some frustration and some pent-up anger in that." That is a significant claim, and it is grounded in the reality of how professional athletes compete. Reddick winning 4 of the first 6 races while his 23XI Racing teammate Wallace was fighting for position in the middle of the pack creates an internal tension that does not go away. It compounds. Kyle Petty's argument is that on lap 323, when Hocevar made that 3-wide move, he did not just light a short fuse. He lit one that had already been burning for weeks. Kyle Petty also made a specific point of defending Hocevar from the crowd of critics looking to assign him some share of the blame. He said, "Hocevar is an easy target right now because you almost wreck Hocevar and everybody says, oh well, that's just Hocevar. He had that coming." In this case, I don't think Hocevar had this coming. Taking you 3 wide at Martinsville is not cause for what we're seeing right here on the screen. Now the reaction from Wallace's own team hit harder than anything that came from outside it. Freddie Kraft, Wallace's spotter, went on the Door Bumper Clear podcast and chose to be completely transparent. He said, "There's not really any sugarcoating about it." He accepted Wallace's explanation that it was a misjudgment, but then he laid out the championship math in terms that made the scale of the damage impossible to ignore. "We went from 3rd in points to now, we're tied for 8th with 5 other guys." In practical terms, Wallace had fallen from 3rd to effectively 11th in the standings, a collapse of 8 positions in a single afternoon. And then came the word that cut the deepest. Kraft said, "Unfortunately, we ended our day yesterday self-inflicted." Self-inflicted, not a mechanical failure, not a tire going down at the wrong moment, not another driver taking Wallace out through no fault of his own. This was Wallace making a choice or a misjudgment, depending on whose account you accept, that ended his own race, damaged his own championship standing, and collected his own teammate in the process. Wallace himself captured the frustration of a driver who cannot figure out why a promising season keeps coming apart. He said, "We can win Saturday in practice. Just don't show up on Sunday. I hate it for our team, just frustration." Back-to-back DNFs at Darlington and Martinsville had now wiped out everything he built in the opening stretch of the season. 4 top 11 finishes in the first 5 races, second place in the standings at one point, all of it erased across 2 weekends. Fox Sports insider Bob Wallace calculated that Wallace finished the race with just 1 championship point, while Joey Logano, whose car his team had to partially rebuild mid-race, finished with 20. That 19-point swing in a single race is the kind of damage that takes multiple strong weekends to recover from. And here is the final layer of irony in all of this. Martinsville Speedway is Bubba Wallace's favorite track. He has won 2 Truck Series races at the paperclip-shaped short track and has spoken openly throughout his career about how comfortable he feels there. On Sunday, March 29, 2026, it bit him as hard as any track ever has. Meanwhile, Joey Logano handled the entire aftermath with a composure that made Wallace's frustration look even more costly by comparison. On the team radio right after the wreck, as his damaged car was sliding across the front stretch, Logano said simply, "Bubba, shake and bake." A Talladega Nights reference, delivered in the middle of an actual crash, only in NASCAR. The Cup Series takes 1 week off before returning at Bristol on April 12th for the Food City 500. Wallace will arrive there sitting 11th in points, carrying back-to-back DNFs, and facing questions about whether the early promise of his 2026 season can still be salvaged. Bristol is another short track, the kind of place where emotions run high and mistakes are punished instantly. Richard Petty saw what happened at Martinsville. Freddie Kraft called it self-inflicted. Kyle Petty laid out the psychological architecture behind it. And Bubba Wallace now has 1 week to figure out how to leave all of it behind before the sport returns. The damage is done. The question now is what comes next. I want to hear from you. Do you think what happened at Martinsville was a genuine misjudgment? Or was this frustration boiling over after weeks of watching his teammate dominate? Drop it in the comments. Let's talk about it. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button and subscribe to NASCAR Hub. We are just getting started and we want you along for every single lap. Thanks for watching. See you at Bristol.